Greetings and welcome. I'm Dave, the AI Wizard, and today we're going to see, can AI create your tabletop RPG battle maps for free? And spoiler alert, yes it can, and it's pretty amazing at doing it as well. So the first question, the simple question, can Stable Diffusion with the 1.5 model, which is running here at the moment, can that create a battle map? Does it even know what a battle map is? So let's just add battle map as our only prompt. If you don't know very much about Stable Diffusion, I'll kind of explain things a little bit as I go, but I will keep the details minimal. And if people want a longer tutorial video on Stable Diffusion and how to install it and how to do all the settings, well, let me know and I will create one. Otherwise, there are others out there on the internet. The prompt area here, this is where you tell the AI what you want to see. Then underneath it, we have a box for things we don't want to see, negative prompts, as it were. And then there's a whole bunch of other settings. We're going to leave all the other settings at default, and we're going to add a single word prompt, battle map. Now, it's not always a good idea to add just a single word prompt for Stable Diffusion. Generally, the more detail you put in, the better. However, as you can see, a single word prompt, this is clearly a battle map. So you saw it generate here. This is the output box. We generated a single image. This is based off a random seed. As you can see, the seed is currently set to -1, which means random seed. It'll be different every time we generate. This is the output. This is clearly some kind of outdoors ruin or some like formal garden or something. I'm not sure if these are meant to be trees or some other sort of structure. Potentially we could take them as trees, we could correct them later, but let's just create another one. Let's just see what the next output for battle map is going to be. Okay, now here something has happened. This clearly is more of a map than a battle map, more of a regional map or something like that. It's gotten a little bit confused, and we can help to clarify what we want from Stable Diffusion by putting in negative prompts, as I say. So we're going to add map as a negative prompt. So we want battle maps. We don't want maps like regional maps, world maps, those sorts of things, city maps. None of those maps. Let's generate again and see if it gives us something better. And there you go. We're back to a great local, like small scale battle map. We've got a bit of a ruin here. It's in a kind of hand-drawn, hand-painted kind of style. Let's bump the batch up to 6. And I won't make you sit through the generation process for all of these, but I'll do it once. So this is running generation for 6 separate battle maps. You can see the ETA timer there. It says 25 seconds. I don't think it'll be that long. I guess we'll see. I'll just keep talking whilst it does it, as it generates through these different images. I've got it to, set to preview, so we kind of see the image as it's becoming more refined. You can see it starts very kind of like vague, and the details emerge frankly in a sort of a fairly beautiful way. And you can see, I think every single one of these has been a pretty cool battle map. I mean, you could use any of these straight off the bat. And this is the thing that's really kind of become apparent to me as I've been making this video, as I've been planning it, and I've been testing out different prompts and things. This goes beyond just a tool for making battle maps. This is a tool for helping you design encounters, for helping you be creative in your RPG, Dungeon Master or Games Mastering, period. It's almost a collaborative assistant for creating content, which is incredible. I mean, that's a step beyond. There are great tools out there like Dungeon Draft, and I'm sure there are others for creating battle maps yourself. You can obviously draw them if you've got sufficient talent. But what's come out here, I haven't given it any information at all. I've literally just said battle map, and it's just gone, well, what would make a cool battle map? Okay, we've got a bit of an outdoors area here with some sort of like ruined buildings. This is all generating ideas. You could literally, you know, before a session starts, you failed to prepare, you haven't thought of anything for the session, you know, the guys are going to be logging on in half an hour, and you've got to come up with an encounter or a couple of encounters to keep them busy whilst you kind of, you know, plan what's going to happen properly later on in the story. You can literally come into Stable Diffusion, you can ask the AI, generate me some battle maps, you can look through them and go, oh, okay, that gives me an idea, they're kind of near some ruins at the moment, why don't I have them have an encounter here at this kind of like, you know, ruined courtyard, we'll throw some goblins or something in here. Job done. Great. But let's say you had a more specific plan in mind. You know your characters are in the middle of some deep dark dungeon. You know you're going to want them to have an encounter in the dungeon, so you don't want the battle map. You don't want the AI to just continually spew out these kind of outdoor locations. So we can clarify this. We've got literally one word prompt in here at the moment. So let's go for something else. We'll go for battle map, dungeon room, dark, gloomy, for a bit of atmosphere. We'll go stone. We'll generate that. Okay, so clearly we've got a bit of a problem here. This is clearly a side-on view of a corridor in a dungeon. This could still be a cool battle map, to be fair. I mean, you've got this could be a door in the floor. It could even be, a whole building that's tipped on its side or something if you wanted to kind of use it. This, however, is clearly just, it's like a first-person view of a dungeon. And this clearly also just like a third-person view into a dungeon room. So there's a few things we need to learn from this. We need to try and exclude these sorts of images. So what we're going to do, we're going to add to our negative prompts first person, isometric. We could also try adding overhead or top down. Okay, and we're done. So let's have a look at what we've got. It's not a lot of usable space. It's really just a kind of stone floor with some walls. This one's all right. A bit more of a dirt floor kind of a look. If there was something specific we wanted, then we could add it to the prompt. So, maybe we could say dungeon room. Maybe we want like a glowing fire in it. Let's see. Okay, right. I mean, first impressions, it's pretty good, right? We've definitely got some glowing fire effects here. This is a little bit of an irregular kind of image. It's very grainy. I don't know if we want it to be that grainy. In fact, I'm going to say all of these are too grainy, so I'm going to add grainy in as a negative prompt. I'm also going to add blurry whilst we're at it. We don't want it to be blurry or unfocused. Maybe hand-drawn. Sometimes it has a habit of spitting out very rough hand-drawn looks, and I want this to look more like something you would create in something like Dungeon Draft, something that's a bit cleaner and tighter. Now that's just purely personal taste, and you could put hand-drawn in as a positive prompt. Okay, so again, some fantastic results. I think the prompt changes that we've made have definitely had an impact here. This is much less grainy. It's sharper. It looks more realistic, more rendered. We've got some great encounter rooms again. Working with AI is like a collaboration with someone else. You're not just kind of sitting at. You can sit at Dungeon Draft. I'm sure we've all done it. Everyone who's ever tried to create their own encounters and their own adventures in Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop role-playing game. At some point, you're sat with essentially a blank screen in front of you, and you've got to come up with something. You've got to create it all yourself. You've got to imagine what it is you want your players to encounter, and that's one of the great things about tabletop role-playing games. Don't get me wrong, but it can also be difficult sometimes to get those creative juices going, especially on demand when time is tight. You've got to create something for your players, and you want it to be imaginative, and you want it to be interesting. AI can really help because you can just very quickly get the AI to spit out, tabletop battle maps, spit them out. You can riff on them, and you can kind of use the inspiration the AI is giving you to inform the adventure that you're writing. And I think it's incredible. I think it's going to change how humans operate, having access to these kind of tools, not just in tabletop role-playing games, across the board. But today, let's stay focused on tabletop role-playing games. Another great one here. Look, we've got this kind of like fiery pit kind of thing. And another one, you could have this kind of like large area. Maybe the floor gives way and the players fall into this kind of like depressed area here, or they come in, there's like an illusory floor here, and they fall down and they've got to like work their way up here, clamber up and get back out. I like this one. This might be one that we work with a bit more and kind of add to. Let's look at what else we've got though. Another great, we've got this beautiful blue light portal or something in the middle here with these like rooms around the edges. I really like that. This one, it's just a square room with some lights around it. It's not really what we want. What we're going to do is we're going to save a couple of these for later. I'm going to save this And let's go, we'll create a new folder for this one, and we'll just call it Fire Dungeon for the sake of argument. Fire Dungeon. Put this in as FTO1. There we go. Nice and simple. So we can come back to it. Now we could save more of these if we wanted to. This one would need a lot of fixing, but it is kind of cool. I'll save this one as well. Here we go. Save this one. We'll save this one as FTO2. So before we were just asking the AI to create images based on our text prompt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask the AI to create images based on a source image. So we're effectively going to iterate on an existing image. So we're going to go back to our Fire Dungeon and let's get our first one. So this is the Fire Dungeon image one of the Fire Dungeon images that we had, one of the battle maps. For image to image, it's going to combine the source image with our prompt, and it's going to try and come up with variations. And the degree to which that variation will vary from the original, the degree to which it will deviate from the original is determined primarily by denoising strength. So we've got sampling steps again. I'm going to leave this at 20 for now, and we might up it again later on. So we've still got CFG scale. How close to the prompt do we want to be? I'll leave it at 20. And then we've got denoising strength. And if I put denoising strength all the way down to 0 and generate, it's just going to be a replica of this existing image. There we go. It's exactly the same image. It's just generated it again. If we put this all the way up to 1, it's effectively like not having an image there, I think. It's basically like we ran this prompt through the original text to image prompt, and it just generated something completely random, or I should say, it imagined something without giving any real consideration to this source image. But we want to use the source image reasonably heavily. So let's put our denoising strength down to, we'll start it at maybe 0.6, and we can either go up or down from there, depending on what we're generating. And let's put our batch count back up, because generating one at a time is inefficient. So we'll generate 6. I mean, it's pretty spectacular, right? I love it. I love this image already. Straight away. This one, again, same deal. We've got like a pit or a lowered area. This one's open on either end, so it could be used as like a passageway or something where you're continuing along. We've actually got like a fire portal here with, glowing light emanating from it to try and make this in even something like Dungeon Draft, or a tool that makes creating battle maps a lot easier for someone like me who knows his way around Photoshop. But I'm no artist. I could never hand draw this. It would take me hours and hours to produce something that looked this good by trying to patch it together somehow using Photoshop. And yet here it is. And more importantly, I may not have even thought of this. When I sat down to create my encounter, why not a fiery portal in a stone wall that the players have to reach to and close? It's a great idea. Thanks, AI. Good idea. Not the only one you've had today. Here we go. The next one, possibly slightly less successful, but could be used if you liked the kind of structure here and some of the ideas of these kind of like blockier, more uneven floors. We could take this back into image to image, run it through again, and see what else it produced. This is cool. Look at the way the light literally sort of is coming out, almost as if there's like something in here with an opening that's just emanating light out in either direction. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? Frankly, I don't know why I'm still going. The question to the video was answered ages ago. I should just hurry up and get some of these into virtual tabletop. But perhaps the big problem is they're all so good. I want to keep them all. Let's save this one. I think it's probably different enough that let's call it Fire Dungeon 03. We'll save that. We'll save this one as well, because I think this one is awesome. It's going to be Fire Dungeon 04. And then what I wanted to demonstrate this iterating through image to image. So we're going to take this one, which is not particularly great in its own right, and we're going to send it to image to image. So it just basically takes it, puts it across into your input image, and then we'll just run again. Okay, more fantastic results. I think we're starting to, I mean, that's awesome. That's usable right off the bat. I'm saving that one. I'm saving that one straight away. Fire Dungeon 05. I'd be hard pressed to tell you which is even my favorite of these so far. Probably a bit less useful, but again, we could just fire it back into image to image and go through it again. I'm going to be really picky and just say none of the rest are of interest to us. Just that one, just this one alone is frankly beautiful. It's actually kind of going back a little bit to what the image previously was. But again, see, we've got all the detail here. We've got a second pit that's formed. We've got all this fire knocking about the place. Nice big curving entrance. You could have your 4 players coming in here, assuming you had 4 player characters. You know, a couple of monsters in here. Bish, bash, bosh. All right, fine. So that's image to image. You can keep running this through again and again. If we wanted to get a lot closer to our source image, we could go down to, say, 0.3. I'm going to lower the batch count for a bit of expediency here down to 4. And you can see at 0.3 here, it's a lot closer to our original image. It's almost too close to it, actually, because we didn't start with a particularly good image. But if you had, you know, if we loaded in, let's bring in the one with the fiery portal, because this one's awesome. So if we had this, but it was kind of like, you know, maybe there was something about it you didn't quite like, and you just wanted to see if the AI could come up with something that was very similar but slightly tweaked, just image to image, set a nice low denoising strength, and see what the AI produces. And of course we could change our prompt. We've literally left our prompt here the same throughout, but there's no reason why we would need to do that. Let's have a look at these. A bit more of a square portal there. I'm not sure that's an improvement. A much more defined portal there. I mean, that is much more clearly a fiery portal. All of these pretty good. Not necessarily better than the original, but maybe we wanted to change this a little bit here. So we've got dungeon room, glowing fire portal, and let's have no sparks, blue flame. There we go. Let's see what it does with sparks and blue flame. Again, we're still very close to our original image. Increase our denoising strength up to, say, 0.44. Why not? It's a bit like casting spells, this. You just play around, you tweak. Okay, some of these are pretty good. This is kind of deviating a bit from the original source image. We've got a nice square, almost like a hearth there. It's pretty cool. Not really managed to get any sparks. See? Okay. Just adding blue flames, we've got a bit of blue lighting cast on here. Now, there's no actual blue flames visible, but the prompt is definitely being listened to. We've definitely got this kind of blue flame, and I think this is actually a pretty good image. Again, you've got this kind of very clearly defined corridor. You've got large obstacles that will provide a bit of line of sight blocking and a bit of interest. You've got a big fiery portal or something here. Bit of eerie blue light you could weave into your description. So here we go. FTO1, FTO2. Quite like this one, but we never really did any more with it. FTO3, also quite a cool one. Definitely could import that into a thing. I like these though. I like this kind of fire portal room, and you could almost make this like a series. Look, you know, you have to travel through a series of increasingly dangerous and deadly fiery portals, which take you to like deeper into the dungeon. The main problem with these images, they're all 512 by 512. Now that was a choice we made, right? That we can set the size, but the bigger we make it, the harder work it is for the AI, the more like processing power you need on your graphics card, the more memory you need on your graphics card, the longer everything's going to take. And the AI, frankly, works best at 512 by 512. I think that's where it's been trained at. You can have some success by going up larger amounts, and you can do different aspect ratios, but things get a little bit skew-if. Definitely something that's worth experimenting with in the future. But for now, I left everything at 512 by 512 because we can just upscale, right? We don't want to work with a 512. We don't want a 512 by 512 image in our virtual tabletop. That would be lame. We want a nice big image. Now, we've got different upscaling methods and AIs that we can implement, and they take differing amounts of speed, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. ESR GAN 4X, that's what we're doing. We're resizing it 4 times, so we're going to end up with a 2048 by 2048 image, which is probably big enough. We could go bigger if we wanted to get up to 6 or 8 times bigger. These are options. And here we are in virtual tabletop, just to prove that you can indeed use your AI generated battle maps in a virtual tabletop. This is Bob. He is a level 0 nobody in an otherwise empty world. I've cheated a little bit because I have added walls here in Foundry to provide the kind of token vision. I've also thrown down a light there and a light there. If I tried to create this scene myself by hand using, say, Dungeon Draft, or if I tried to do it in Photoshop, it would have taken a lot longer than it did to create it using AI. But more importantly, I just don't think I would have ended up with the same thing. I think if I had been designing this, I probably would have fallen into some of my standard tropes, some of my standard design practices. It wouldn't have looked as good. I wouldn't have had this cool fire effect here because I don't have anything like that, right? And I probably wouldn't have thought to try and create something like that. So this is the strength, the incredible strength of using AI to generate your battle maps. I think this is a game changer. I think this is something that people will be doing a lot of in the future. I think this will become a pretty standard part of dungeon creating processes for a lot of DMs, if not ultimately all dungeon masters and games masters, if they've got a PC that can run it. If you don't have a PC that can run it, well, there are online image generation programs like DALL-E and Midjourney, which are paid for, but perhaps they're worth doing it. And many would argue that especially Midjourney with its version 4 is a much more advanced model than Stable Diffusion is currently. So maybe that's better. If you want me to create a video using Midjourney or DALL-E or both in the future to see what kind of battle maps we can create with that, please let me know in the comments below. Also, whilst you're there, this is my first video. This is a brand new channel. This is just an idea I had because I've been playing around with a lot with these AI tools, and I want to create content which is about practical application for AI tools and AI generation. It's all very well and good to just create cool images and fancy pictures and what have you, but when you can actually use it to solve a problem you have in the real world, in this case creating cool battle maps for your encounters, and not just creating them visually, but actually getting the inspiration for creating an interesting encounter and an interesting battle, that I think is awesome. I think that is amazing, and I think we are barely starting to scratch the surface of practical uses for AI, and that's what this channel is going to be all about. It's going to be using AI in tabletop role-playing games, game development, and anything else I can think of applying it to, where I can think of a practical application for stuff that I actually use in the real world. So I hope that is of interest to you, and I hope you stick around and you subscribe and you like the video and you do all those YouTubey things. We can have a bit more of a banter at the end of future videos if you want to leave comments asking any kind of questions or suggestions. That would be amazing. But until then, thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I have been Dave, the AI Wizard, and I'll see you later.